Hello. My name is Tracey Fox from Ultra Records and Ultra Publishing. Today we are running a panel about A&R, making records in a digital era and A&Ring to feed the modern consumption. So basically how we make records these days with Spotify, iTunes. Sorry, I'm not sure if that was too loud. What I'll do is I've got a great panel with me today. Damian Harris from Skint, Paul Arnold from Ultra, and Felix Canetti Clarke from Sony ATV. So a good mix of records and publishing and independents and majors. And what we'll do is we'll start off introducing ourselves. Damian, would you like to go first?
Yes. Hello. I don't know who to talk to.
Yeah, which
Hi. My name's Damian Harris. I recently returned to Skint Records, record label I started back in the 90s, and now owned by BMG, and been working with, back at the helm for about 2 years.
Is that in Brighton or is that in London?
No, the office is in London. But I only used to go up once a week. Only needed to go up once a week. But yeah, haven't been to London for 6 months, which is utterly weird and bizarre. But I quite enjoy. I've got a little desk and an office here, so just work from home.
And who are the artists on Skint at the moment?
At the moment,
and historically,
we have. Well, Rasheen Murphy, whose album is out tomorrow. Lou Hayter, who used to be in the Young Pony Club and made various records for various people. Emperor Machine, Serge Santiago. Signed a band called Museum of Love, which is Pat Mahoney from LCD. And before that, we had Fatboy Slim, Bentley Rhythm Ace, Express 2, Dave Clarke, Freak Nasty, and amongst others. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Paul, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. My name's Paul Arnold. I work for Ultra Music. I've been there for about 6-7 years. Work A&R on the record side and on the publishing side. Brought on to sort of grow the publishing catalogue initially in Europe. Before that, I was working on my own independent label, Certificate 18, which is an early electronic drum and bass label, and then built the sort of Fat Records label brand with the Club Night Chew the Fat. So there's a lot of electronic dance music coming through our door, if you like, and that's what sort of opened the door to working with Ultra, signing things on the publishing, which evolved into, the full-time role on the publishing and the records with our boss, Patrick Moxey, who's CEO of Ultra Music.
And Felix, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I know which camera am I supposed to be looking at? Doesn't really matter. Anyway, hi, I'm Felix. I work at Sony ATV, which is a major music publisher. I was previously at Universal, and at Sony I have a kind of dual role. I have a roster which I look after of writers and producers, and I also head up the research and analytics team. So looking at lots of data, which increasingly plays an important part of A&R and scouting and how we look at deals in the 21st century.
And what artists or writers do you work with at the moment?
So I have a producer called Neve Applebaum, who I signed earlier this year, who is based in Cambridge. He's a mix producer, writer, who has co-written and produced the last 2 Joel Corry singles. And sort of the wider roster includes writers and artists like Calvin Harris and Disciples and Gorgon City and Becky Hill. Brilliant,
brilliant. And my name's Tracey Fox. Like Paul, I work at Ultra Music and Ultra Music Publishing. Artist-wise, the roster runs a gamut from Steve Aoki to Kygo to Iconopop to Omi. And on the publishing side, we have great writers and writer-producers such as Paul Wolford, Left Wing Cody, Martin Eichen, Elias and Barrientos. So we're heavily in the dance space as well. and we both work on both sides of records and publishing. One of the things we do day to day is finding talent and making records and helping people make records, which is what I really want to focus on this panel. Obviously, it's very interesting times that we're dealing with at the minute, and I don't want to turn this into a COVID conversation, but I think it's certainly part of the conversation because it'll be interesting to talk about how we've made records this year and how we will continue to make them into next year. We've certainly found ourselves making records remotely. A lot of our producers who are going to be on the road are now in the studio and delivering records. Are you guys, anybody can chime in. How are you finding it, Damian?
Yeah, it's amazing how many remixes are suddenly available. Sort of all of a sudden who weren't. Were a little bit too busy before. Yeah, I mean, we've been relatively fine. I mean, I think most people have got a sort of a decent studio set up at home now. So, and yeah, you know, most of them work on their own. We had to do a bit of interesting stuff to finish off Rasheen's album and sort of like getting her up to the studio in Sheffield.
Was most of it recorded before?
Yeah, well,
March?
yeah, she did vocals. She tried doing vocals herself from home, and then Parrot, who is the sort of producer, he sort of said, "Nope, you got to come up." And yeah, so she actually sort of went up and recorded there, but it was quite funny, sort of pictures in hazmat suits and things like that.
She loved that, I'm sure.
Yeah, made it her own. Yeah, so it's yeah, it's been all right actually. It's not affected us as much as yeah, as you'd expect. Just the sort of the actual getting stuff made.
And how about you, Felix?
I think
from a publishing side.
Yeah, I think it's been super interesting. It's okay. Sort of internationally, overseas, you know, Zoom is whether you like Zoom sessions or you don't. You know, I think whereas before people might have been hesitant to work with or travel overseas to work with people, suddenly like you can have a beat maker in LA, you can have a top liner in London, you can have the producer in or you know a glue in Germany, and actually they all pop up on the screen and it doesn't really matter where they're from. So I think relationships have been built in this time, which hopefully will go beyond lockdown, but also perhaps relationships that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Absolutely. I think there's been a lot of that. And I think some people like the Skype sessions, some people have never done it before, all of a sudden found this love for it.
Yeah, and I think the way they work, I mean, I've sort of observed a few at the start, and I think, you know, some people really just want to have the camera on the whole time and they'll just work. Some people want to send something, they'll listen to it together, they'll talk about it, maybe someone will put some vocals on top and then they send it back, and it's sort of, it's not necessarily a Zoom session in that you're actually on the video writing, but there is a relationship where you're able to communicate face to face, but actually most of the work is done outside of that time. I think people are sort of trying to work out what works best for them.
And Paul, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I guess a lot of the dance DJ producers, obviously nothing's really changed except they're not going out in the weekend DJing. So
Sessions start early.
Yeah, I mean it's carry on as usual, except obviously we all know that the revenues just disappeared out of the DJing. So I guess for us, we want to get the records out as as quick as possible for them to help keep their careers going and be relevant. So they've been working super hard as a label. We've been working super hard to get as much music from them so we can release it, and keep their identity and profile up instead of just disappearing because they're not in front of an audience. The only audience they have is, I suppose, through the streaming and the sales. So. And which goes to the radio, but I guess a lot of the music coming out of the clubs for these days, the records they were making was coming out of the clubs. They were protesting it, and that's not happening. So they're writing, doing the sessions remotely, and delivering records, and we're getting them out, as quick as we can.
How are you guys finding it? I mean, we're all in the dance space, heavily in the dance space. Are you making records for clubs anymore? Are you making it for specialist radio? Have you decided to change tack project, or are you just doing what you've always done?
It's a very interesting one. We already had a few things in the sort of schedule. So Rasheen's sort of album works in a sort of a slightly different space, I think. It's interesting getting the DJ's reactions, and we did do a really great club package for Something More, the last one, and just the amount of people go, just want to play this in a nightclub. This would sound so good, So there's an element of sort of wistfulness that you get back from people about that. I think I am sort of slightly moving away from those more obvious club records, because there are certain things that just would sound great in a club, but don't get that same traction if you're sitting at home, listening at home, or just sort of going through a load of promos. So I think we're sort of slightly not quite put off. You're always hoping it's just around the corner. You're always hoping things will come again, and that will sound great once the club's open. But I'm feeling that we're slightly sort of moving away from them at the moment.
And I think though obviously as a publisher, I'm not like making records and releasing them, but I think what's been interesting to see, like in terms of what's having like commercial success and how dance music as a genre has performed in lockdown, it's actually done really well. I think whether that's because people are at home and they're working out and they're listening to dance playlists. Head and Heart was the longest running #1 this year. That's all been really positive for dance music, but I think that's obviously more commercial dance. And I think, as you say, for stuff that's in the clubs, you've got to rethink if it's the right time. If you think it's really, really good, like, do you want to pull the trigger when there's no one to listen to it in a club?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and listen, you're quite instrumental in helping make those records, whether it's kind of like a Fake Friends or, working with Alex Hoskins, who's Sony ATV, and kind of having her out there in sessions, capitalizing on making more records with producers. It feels like it's still super busy.
Definitely,
for everybody.
Definitely. And I guess Left Wing and Cody, who Ultra published one of Left Wing and Cody, published John, and Sony ATV, I published Chris. Tracey and I did a camp earlier this year for them, and that was super busy, and I think is testament to people getting back in actual sessions before everything locks down again, and passion to make music, which is great to see.
Definitely. Are you how are you guys finding, say, signing stuff in, like, just signing stuff generally, and this is more than just a last 12 months, this is, hey, the last 24, 36 months. Is the way you sign things any differently, say, than it was before? Like, do you use, I know, Felix, you said that, you do a lot of digital strategy stuff, and you probably look at algorithms. I don't know how much you use that to sign what you sign. Damian, I don't know if you do that. Paul, maybe you guys want to weigh in. And also, has that changed now in the last 6 months? Because how do we go out? We don't go out and see gigs. We're not at clubs seeing DJs DJ. You can see the live stream where it is. But how are you finding talent? Not to give away your secrets, but and are you signing stuff? So all of you.
You go. I'd really like to hear your.
Yeah, it's quite the whole thing is quite bamboozling. All the things you were saying, because again, there's no written rules, and is it different or isn't it different? Going back to your point before, definitely you would think to move away from just club records because there's no audience, but that's contradiction in the sense that record stores, when you go back to vinyl record stores, they've been busier than ever because the kids are at home, or everyone's at home buying records, and they've been DJing at home. So it's important that they want the music, and so if you've been making club music, you want to keep making club music. I guess it's an opportunity to open the door to sort of flies.
Very persistent fly.
Yeah. I'm not quite at President Obama, who just clicked it out of his fingers, didn't he? No, I didn't. But yeah, I guess an opportunity to write something maybe with a little bit more, aimed maybe more radio if they're not used to writing with vocalists, and then the Zoom comes into it and doing those sessions, which could open it to radio. So it's, but I think the point is, as long as you're releasing consistently, because therefore we need to think about the records going into Spotify regularly, if they're club records, if they're going every 4 to 6 weeks, then they're I guess, giving their audience something, their fan base consistently, because people move on very quickly with music today, but also, dare we say, as we spoke before, working the algorithm, which is really important to keep them just moving in the algorithm, delivering a record. And that could be any music, so therefore it wouldn't have to be radio to work that algorithm. But I guess to get the wider audience, it is about radio. So
So we're not breaking records in clubs at the minute, but if we either get it on radio or we just work Spotify and by keep releasing.
yeah. I didn't know that answered the last question, but not your most recent question, which was
Well, kind of.
the signing of it.
Yeah, are we signing things through data basically, or how things are streaming? And I mean that goes into a more of a conversation of how we're releasing records, which we should talk about. But I guess in terms of finding talent through different platforms, are we doing that any differently now in the last kind of 3 years and 12 months than we were before?
I'll just carry on with that. Because then there's an artist that we've recently seen who's released an EP, and it's club music. They've released a record every 2 weeks over a period of 8 weeks, and the streaming's grown consistently because of their regularity of the releases, which release 2 weeks release, 2 weeks release, 2 weeks release, which has formed an EP. They're all individual singles, but they formed an EP, and the playlists have picked up on it, and it's performing really well for a club release, and that's therefore come to our attention as of, therefore us interested in signing it, because they're obviously moving. How they create an audience, through their algorithm, or is it the music? I mean, who knows, but the music's good and the algorithm's working, so that's of interest for us. There's an artist behind it doing something great, so yeah, we're certainly interested in looking at that and then building that and enabling our resources, a label, to put it on a bigger platform to get it to a bigger audience.
I'm in a slightly sort of slightly unique position in that I was away for 10 years. And
Majesties.
No, crimes against Big B. No, I didn't get arrested for that, funnily enough. No, I was out of the music game for quite a while, so we sort of like straddled that time of sort of digital coming in. I think we benefited, the second Fatboy Slim album was one of the last before sort of bootlegging and, CD copiers and Napster all sort of really affected. So, and I was very much used to the sort of selling 12 inches and, that world. So that's where I came in. And so there's been a lot of reacclimatizing for me coming back. Going, you do what? No, and I still can't get my head around that you send out to DJs the day you're releasing it. What's that all about? Yeah. All those things are sort of very, very strange to me. So it's, I think I've spent the first sort of part of my time back really just readjusting. I came back thinking, right, got to have a club presence. Let's just put out regular club records that I like, that identify as sort of what I would want Skint to look like. And then you're just going, it doesn't work like that anymore. And, I sort of dawned on me that, those records that I like, that I will go on Bandcamp or I will go on Juno and buy, will probably only stream, 10, 15,000. And so me as part of a major, ish label, we have to do stuff that sort of goes up a level. We have to do the stuff that goes beyond that. Yeah. So it's been a real awakening for me. I mean, and all the stuff about sort of algorithms is just, I don't mean to sound like a confused old man, but I feel like one. But
you still make records the same way you made records 15 years ago.
Yeah, you do. And you still have to just trust, all of that doesn't change. A great record is still a great record. Your instincts there still change. I mean, we Six Music didn't exist when I left, and thank God it's there, because that is pretty much, we used to be Radio 1 and now we're Six Music, occasionally Radio 2. So, all of these things that, sort of coming to terms with. But yeah, the hunch is still the hunch, I think, and no matter what, you still know when you got something really special, you still wake up singing it, or it's the songs you wake up with in your head that I think are the ones.
I'll just open this question for the floor. Do you think because of Spotify and because of, Paul, what you hit on about, producers in the dance space putting out more music to kind of keep up with the algorithm, do you think the music has the same quality if we're putting out this much music? Or I'm talking this as general, or do you think quality is kind of suffering and it's a bit of fast, I don't want to call it fast food, but is it fast music in a sense?
Sorry, I do have one thing another thing that I've noticed, again, in my day. Sorry, I really determined not to say in my day, but I did. It's just the technology that you have now, and the ads for software that can make you sing and write your songs and all of that. I mean, is oh God, in my day. But you had to sort of learn stuff and things like that. And I mean, just the access, what you have access to now is just phenomenal. So I wonder whether that sort of affects. I'd be interested to know what you two think. Whether is it just that much easier to make the records? Does that affect, or is it still the creative brain that uses it?
I think you were hitting on earlier about people being able to work wherever they are now.
Yeah, and I was actually just going to go back to the last question first, because I think, I guess where you talk about the old school, I suppose I was brought into Sony ATV to kind of look at how we can make better use of data in A&R and what we're doing, and it's a massive challenge trying to, on the one hand, work with creatives and still have that gut and still go with your gut, but on the other hand, manage this information flow that we now have, and manage the risk mitigation, I guess. It's like, if you're going to put down a load of money, how can you try and ensure that what you're doing you think is the right thing, not only musically, but also you think it's going to have commercial success. And, I think the way that we discover talent has definitely changed in some respects, but I also think, to your question about whether we're still signing or not, like definitely at Sony ATV, we're still super active. We've signed more deals in lockdown in the first 3 months of lockdown than we signed in the previous 3 months of the year. So, it's been a really busy period for us, definitely. But I think we find things on playlists, we find things looking at data, we find things when the clubs were open, but we find things still that get just sent in and people listen, and we build a relationship and we take a punt, because that's still really important.
And I think the quality has to be there. Ultimately, comes down to the ears, and it won't get past anyone's in the labels or the publishers. All of those things without people genuinely liking it, really. So I think that always comes down to the ears and everyone's passion for music within music. Is there a lot more music out there that isn't as up to it because of the technology, would you say? Or, I think there's a lot more people making music and they can get it up a lot. Everyone can get it up. So maybe we hear a lot more music that isn't as good as perhaps the people who could press up records and CDs before, because I guess there were less of those, because people were less likely to be able to put money in to do it, to invest in them if it wasn't as good. But now you could put, I could knock out a few things here and just upload it and be on Spotify in a couple of weeks. So I guess there has to be
a couple of hours.
Yeah. Or do you know that you're better at technology than me? So I guess there is a lot more to get through.
Well, I was going to say, I think there's also there's definitely a volume game being played by everyone at the moment, not just in dance music, but generally. And I think that's because, they said they talk about streaming like you never have a miss in streaming, in that, sure, it might not be a success, but once it's there and it's ticking over, provided it's getting at least one stream a week, that is effectively income a week. So whilst I guess once you get to a certain level, you want to be more strategic about what you're releasing and making sure that the tunes are really, really strong and making sure that you time them right and the campaigns, it fits into a campaign. But I think at the beginning, when you haven't got any traction and you're trying to create traction, there's an argument to say that actually, putting out a record every 2 weeks and seeing how that goes could be a strategy that works for you, because you do get some momentum and playlist DSP editors start to see that you're active and that there's a strategy, and that can really work for some people.
I think it's always needed the filter. And there always needs to be that filter. But it is interesting how now that, Bandcamp and that easy sort of access to the availability, the democratization of sort of distribution and making of it. And you still, there's still, tracks that not even their parents have listened to. But, just the sort of the sheer amount of stuff that is released every week. And you do need something to sort of scramble through that, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the one thing that we try to do with the artists that we do work with is still just make good quality records and not really try to think too much about, will this work on Spotify? I know some people might do, like, will it work within certain playlists? So we'll skew it towards that. I still think you have to just go make, trust your gut, sign good things, try to make good records that you think will cross over in some way, shape, or form. Not everything has to cross over. Something just has to have a life of its own. But it is interesting because it can get out to anybody now. And everybody is walking around with their own, everybody's got a phone now. Everybody is listening to music on that phone,
Definitely. Well, I was going to say, I think if you look at the way people are releasing music now as well in the dance space, it's like they often will put out, the extended version and the edit and the radio edit in the same release as a package. So they're almost trying to play to the game where it's like, yes, you can put the edit straight onto the playlist because it's 3:30, and yes, there's an extended mix to go into your own artist playlist, which is a much longer listen. And I think they're almost, people are, I guess that's adapting to the era that we're in, and the fact that you do want to be able to have one song exist in lots of different little playlist worlds on DSPs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pick up on that. You can make the 7-minute epic artist record and be as indulgent as you want, and that's probably what we're going to sign you on, the fact that we love that piece of music. But then I guess you give it to a label or whoever's kind of putting it out, and you think about, okay, it is going to go to Spotify, it is going to go to Apple, and Spotify do have those algorithms. How is that going to translate? Now, your core fan base will want that, 15-minute epic, so that should be there. They're going to want to listen to it. They're going to put it on their playlist. But to then open that audience, we know that Spotify look at things within it's the skip rate, which, if someone's listened to it for 5, 10, 15 seconds and they've skipped, it's not going to help it perform in the algorithms. Maybe if it went into a playlist, maybe they'll take it out of the playlist because people have skipped it, before way before, not listened to the whole tune. So that 10-minute record or whatever can then be made into the 2.5-minute record, and you can, or maybe the artist doesn't want to, which is absolutely perfectly within their rights to do and should do if they don't want it to be bastardized. Use my language. Yeah. But there's an argument for you could do that. You could do the 2.5-minute and create something that, wow, just like you're in, you like that record, the kid on his phone, and just like, wow, this is wicked. He's like straight in there after 3 seconds and go, yeah, I love this. And so you're creating a record with a different style, different impact, which will work with that. And just as an example, a lot of the dance records, that are actually moving the hooks and the choruses to the beginning of the record on the Spotify edit. So you're straight in there, hearing the hook chorus at 1 second.
Yeah.
So you're in there and then you're singing it before you've even got to the verse. So it's a reverse psychology.
The Roxette paradigm, as they call it. Don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Yeah. Exactly. So you could do that with a 7-minute record and make it into a 2.5-minute record. I don't know if it works on every sort of music.
Yeah, funnily enough, I had to do, there's a thing called Big Fish, Little Fish, which some people I know do, and it's a rave for kids, basically, for sort of like 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And I played for the stream the other day on Sunday, and I was sort of getting these records like, oh, I really wish I'd gone for the edits on all of them, because you're playing Basement Jacks, Where's Your Head At? And you get, I don't need that first 2 minutes, really. And I was
With
just
the,
really
with the
aware.
kids walking off the dance floor, which is
I just, in my head, that's what they were doing. They were sort of just going, oh, what's this, Grandad? Come on.
get to the point.
Yeah, come on. So it's just that thing of needing a hit, hit of sort of dopamine.
So did people's digestion of music change that, or did Spotify change that? Do the people with the phones, listen on YouTube, they want it quick and easy, or did Spotify, because of it, I don't know, I guess it's our consumption of music?
Yeah, I think it's attention spans in the 21st century as well. I think the sort of the number of things you can spend your time on now is just so infinite. Music has a less and less. Sadly, music's competing with all-you-can-eat video streaming services, all-you-can-eat gaming services. There's also like the whole real world where you can talk to your friends and go to the pub, and do you know what I mean? So music is, and obviously it's taking a bigger.
You can Shazam a song while you're at the pub with your friend.
You can do that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's also, these DSPs are also very keen for you to have music on in the background, and it becomes a secondary function to your life. So that also that's where the extended mixes are better, because it's it's a dinner playlist, perhaps not for something super electronic, but something that's something that can just exist in the background and float around. It's almost seen as filler, which is sad.
Oral chewing gum. Yeah, but it's sort of kind of.
I haven't heard that one.
Right. Well, but with podcasts, for example, something that you actually have to focus on and concentrate on, because everyone and their auntie's got a bloody podcast, haven't they? But but it is that thing of the sort of the background noise.
And if you've only got somebody if you manage to somehow, of the 40,000 releases that day, you manage to convince them that they should listen to your song, what do you do as an artist? Do you say, no, I'm true to my integrity and the chorus is going to come in at 1 minute 40? Yeah. Or if you think it's really strong, do you have to bring it forward? And because actually, once you've got an audience, then you can start servicing music that's slightly more true to your identity, but perhaps to initially get there, you've got to make a few compromises. Yeah.
It depends what your tax bill's like, I find. I think.
But
I'm not suggesting that they have no ethics and it's just about the money, but, sometimes, yeah.
I guess, but you just mentioned the background music, which therefore is the creation of that new genre of people making music for exactly that. So people have, because people realise that they're putting it and they want music in the background. So people are right, I can make, there are playlists for that, and people were streaming really well making music like that.
In the same way people are making playlists, exercise playlists. Hey, we can break out and get on these playlists and build our numbers. I mean, there's all kinds of playlists, chill playlists, as we know. It's interesting because I think there are lots of people out there making records for these playlists, and every once in a while something does come through.
But I think there's always opportunists in this game. I mean, I always think I'm moving house soon and sorting out my records, and so you're sort of just going through and finding sort of like seams of. Do you remember when everyone was doing covers of over Soul to Soul beats? And do you remember when everyone was doing sort of so there's always those people who are going, right, what's new? I'm going to do a trap version of This Old House, and by Shaking Steve, or something. There's always going to be those people who are opportunists who are going, right, how can I do that? And so I think it's quite a similar thing, and that's that's fine.
I guess that also kind of leads into what we're seeing a lot of, which is like people taking old records and repurposing them for today's market, which is proving to be super successful for a lot of. Take Joel Corey, for example. That was broken off a cover, and Nathan Dawes done it off a cover, and it's taking something that was already a hit and bringing it into today's world, building an audience, and then coming up with a really, really strong follow-up single, which is an original.
Yep, Jonas Blue. It's it's interesting, but it's a whole new generation of kids that haven't heard some of these records that came out in the 80s and 90s. It's interesting. But that actually, what we're all talking about is interesting in terms of trends. So, where do we think we're going trend-wise? I mean, we've had, in the UK, certainly, like a lot of house music's working. Obviously, commercial crossover dance music's working. But where are we going? Are we, it's been a lot of tech house in the clubs, but is that going to continue? Where might we go with this?
I guess if we knew that, we'd be great A&R men and we'd have signed it all up. But it's interesting in this pandemic that, everyone has been locked down to a certain extent, and therefore writing music in this period, not in front of an audience if they're DJs. So they may have been thinking, I need to write records for the radio. So that, in a sense, is pulling them away from the dance music they are making. And is it translating into or it's moving to, I mean, it will create a new genre, I guess. I guess some people are going to go some way and other people are going to go another way in their bedrooms. And I don't. You tell me, guys. What are you making at home? It'll be fascinating to see. I hope it doesn't get all, watered down, kind of radio music when you guys should have been making really aggressive, club music, because it'd be a shame to use that. But maybe it will dampen down for a while. But when the clubs do open, it will be even more aggressive. And I don't know.
I think we've lost the power as sort of music industry people. I think the old days you could dictate what people listen to and what people like. You could, they had the power to do that. And I think that's gone now because everyone's got so much choice and, there's so much, as you said, available to you, at the touch of a button. So I think, we're sort of slowly being edged out. And people actually reacting to sort of what kids want, I guess. I did have something else that was really poignant and on the nose, and I've forgotten it now.
I think the Fly wants a record deal because he's flying around us.
I remember what it was. Whenever things get a bit shit, I think there's always means there's something good coming up, and there's people reacting to that watering down stuff, and there will be someone going, I just want to make something different. That's always my hope, and that thing of optimism that you go, no.
Well, it evokes a response. I mean, like when New York City wasn't so, before it was super expensive to live, I think kind of struggle breeds creativity, which out of all this, shit,
be a good positive.
Will breed something positive and will breed something new.
Yeah, because there's always, you always wake up going, I'll hear that record today, or that record that will change your life, or, that completely turn everything on its head. So that's always something to hope for and look forward to.
Punk, acid house, and a drum and bass, I guess, and what's next?
Big beat.
It's
back. Did you not get the memo?
the breakbeat. No, I'm recycling my fat back catalogue now for the breakbeats.
There you go.
I think what's worrying is, or what at least is a concern for the future as well, is that these video services like TikTok, where things become so transient and short term, and a beat can come from nowhere. This guy from New Zealand, Josh685, had this beat that was on TikTok and it was blowing up. And then we signed Josh685, Jason Derulo put a top line on it, which actually I think was done on TikTok originally, but then the song was a #1 record in the UK, and that all just came from some kind of viral moment which worked. But often they don't, and there's a bit of hype, and people can get very excited, and this is the next big thing, and as fast as it can grow, it can fall. And I think, we have to, as much as you have to be aware of those things and monitor those things and make decisions about whether or not they're good investments or not for the business, you also have to think, I'm just going to put some time and energy and love and sign stuff which is also like quality and that I love, because that's also super important. And yes, you can follow the trends, but if you don't back the people that are doing interesting things, then we're not going to get that next wave, because they need the investment from us and the backing from us and the belief.
It's KSI, is that,
Yeah.
My kid comes home and, he has been for the last couple of years talking about KSI, and somebody was clever enough to do that. So
yeah, and it's been
people want to, be associated with these kind of people because they're cool.
Yeah.
So that beat on TikTok was with a video.
I think it was just the beat, and then I think there was a dance. Did you
So
see the dance?
I didn't see the dance, but my point is that it's not just the music. There's a whole creative.
So-
You're not just writing the music. You're actually creating a video to go with the beat, which therefore is more creativity than just writing the music.
So I think the beat was put online, and then I think this dance craze came around of it. I'm not sure whether the original creator of the beat started the dance, but the dance was sort of an addition to the beat, and that then went viral on TikTok, and then we ended up where we ended up. But I think that was. I know that things are getting signed at the moment, which are trying to emulate that same. And I think labels are spending money trying to create moments on TikTok with dances, and trying to force those moments rather than watching them happen organically and get involved.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I just think, you have an audience there, so you, as well as writing the music, you need to be creative in the set of the other medias and platforms you can use, and you could do something in your bed, make the music, but you can also film yourself, which then gives it another added element. So, in this moment, if you needed to kind of break out of that, that's another tool.
Did you want to say something, Damian, or we?
No, I just everything that young people have got at their disposal on their phone with TikTok, it's nuts what you can do, and it's really exciting. Because give that to a 12-year-old or and have access to that, and they can work. I mean, it's phenomenal. So as much as sometimes I go, well, what's all this, and get a bit grumpy old man, it's also really exciting, I think.
Completely. I think you're right. I think, if a kid is sitting there and they see a phone, they pick it up and it's either going to be TikTok, YouTube, or a game. So one of those three, you're winning in one way. Maybe it might be Spotify if they're a little bit older, but I think it's one of those three.
Yeah, and the speed should you can see it as a worry, or you can see it as a massive opportunity for people for those that are listening that are like wanting to make music. Like, that's so exciting. You can put something online, and within literally 2 days you could have a viral hit on your hands, which could change your life. So I think should be as exciting as it is extraordinary.
I think probably this is the last question, because I think we're running out of time. But I know there's a lot of kind of youth-oriented, like it's students watching this. Is any words of advice in terms of making music, or would it be just make music and release music? Don't be afraid, be fearless. What advice would you impart?
I think all of those things, really. I think you know yourself from what you are, what inspires you, and what excites you. I mean, I always used to sort of have a stock answers to sort of like getting demos. Would always be, you'd always have people would be emulating their heroes. So we'd get loads of Fatboy Slim sound-alikes or Chemical Brothers sound-alikes, and then there'll be a stage when you go, right, and then once you've learned how to do it, fly free. But, just make your own stuff. And it really is that. It sounds such a cliche. Stay true to yourself, what you would, fight for and die for, really.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to thank the panel. Sorry. I'd like to thank the panel, and thanks, everybody.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
hope you
Sorry
enjoyed
I
it.
didn't get a chance.
Don't worry.